Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are doing our midweek meta deck episode. So I'm starting to do this every week, probably on Wednesday every week. I'm going to play a deck that won a tournament from the weekend just past. So this is the deck that won the AxionNow tournament in the UK, which is where I live. This is a tournament that I entered and I came third in, losing in the semi-finals to my friend Sahar, who was playing this deck, who went on to win the whole thing. So we're going to showcase the deck that she played. Now, this deck is Initiative, which, if you've been watching my channel or any other Legacy player, you'll know what this deck is all about. It's kind of one of the big bad guys in the format right now. You use a bunch of fast mana like Ancient Tomb and City of Traitors, along with Lotus Petals and Chrome Moxes, to power out White Plume Adventurer, Seasoned Dungeoneer, and some other stuff as well, but these are the ones we're trying to hit. Because this puts us into the Undercity, which is a dungeon which has incredible value. It draws you cards, it pumps your guys, it domes your opponent for 5. It's just an incredibly aggressive way of winning a game. This is, you know, the aggro deck in the format right now. So let's have a look at some of the other elements of this deck. So these are just big creatures that finish the game off. But we've also got some other tools here. So we've got some Thalia as like a light prison element alongside our playset of Chalice of the Void. So we can shut down some of our opponent's things, including the easy removal spells that take out our creatures, like Swords to Plowshares, for example. We have our own removal in the form of Solitude and Palace Jailer. Like, Palace Jailer is just another thing. We're trying to hold the initiative, so holding the Monarch is, you know, part of our game plan anyway. This is a good piece of removal, draws more cards. Solitude, it is card disadvantage for us, but because you get so much value from the initiative, you can easily recoup the cards that you're pitching to Solitude, and it means we get to play Chalice as well. And because you've got this mana ramp, casting this is pretty easy to do. Then we have Touch of the Spirit Realm as another removal spell. This is a 3-mana removal spell, or it can be a 2-mana flicker. And the flicker has 2 uses. It can save our creatures from removal. It can reset the initiative, so we can take it again and go further into the dungeon, or we can steal it if our opponent has the initiative. Or it can flicker out opponents' blockers or tokens and get rid of them permanently. So it has a lot of uses. Now, this only hits artifacts and creatures, so we won't be able to use this like an Oblivion Ring and take out enchantments, which sometimes is relevant. Elite Spellbinder is a nice disruptive threat that also has evasion, so if you need to keep trying to get the initiative back off of somebody, this is a good way of doing it. And it's a cleric, so it gets pumped by the Seasoned Dungeoneer. I think this is the better option than the Anointed Peacekeeper, purely because of the flying. And the other card we have is Archon of Emeria, which is a card that I really like. I think it's incredibly backbreaking if you ram this out on turn 1 in Legacy, especially if someone is trying to fetch land into a dual land. This just absolutely stunts the growth of what their deck's doing, and it's also very good against the combo decks that can sometimes go underneath the initiative. So that's pretty much the deck. We also have these 2 Walking Ballistas, which can kill opposing things that are a problem for us sometimes. Anything from Baleful Strixes to Empty Shrine Kanushi out of the sideboard that some people have. So that's pretty much it. We also get to do some of our things uncounterably because of Cavern of Souls. Sideboard-wise, what have we got? 4 dedicated pieces of Graveyard Hate. Now, if you watch my channel, you know I bang on about Graveyard Hate and how you want to have the best piece of Graveyard Hate you can have if you want Graveyard Hate. And Leyline is the best piece because it comes in before the game starts, so it can't be countered or anything. It can't be discarded out of your hand, which is what Reanimator is so adept at doing, that things like Endurance and Surgical feel really bad right now. So I think Leyline is a good shout. And with the Initiative deck, normally your opening hand is more or less enough to win the game with. So top deck in a Leyline isn't so bad when the things that you're already putting into play are so strong. So that's why an uncastable or an almost uncastable card, you know, we do have Lotus Petals, but an almost uncastable card is actually pretty decent in this. And, you know, you just got to stop your opponent for a couple of turns with the Leyline, and then whatever you're doing is probably going to be enough. We've got another Touch of the Spirit Realm just to help flicker some stuff around. This is going to be good in some matchups, like against things that are making Dark Depths tokens, for example, which is what I was playing when I lost to this, actually. I was playing Turbo Depths. I'll talk about that later. I'll probably do a video for Saturday, just sort of a little recap of my tournament, what I played for that one. We've got an Archon of Absolution, which is my personal favourite of the protection from white creatures because it's got some interesting text and flying, so it's good at stealing the initiative that way. A Lorana of the Third Path. We do have a Karakas, so we can loop it sometimes, but this is just a very effective way of blowing the important things we need to blow up, because obviously Touch the Spirit Realm doesn't interact with enchantments, and this does, which is nice. And sometimes drawing a card will be useful, especially when some of our cards have such big impacts on the game here. But it's mainly for the disenchant effect. A couple of Containment Priests, again, things like Reanimator, and this is good against Elves as well. They can't Natural Order or Green Sun Zenith when this is in play. And some Swords to Plowshares. Sometimes you won't be playing a Chalice matchup, where you want the Chalices, you're going to be wanting your Swords to Plowshares, like the Mirror, for example. However, sometimes you'll have Chalice of the Void and Swords to Plowshares, which might look a bit weird, but you can pitch them to Solitude. But they are just quite good. I've seen Initiative players keep the Plows in when they have Chalice in for matchups like Delver, just because you really have to make sure you kill a Murktide. Alright, so that's the deck. The decisions for this sort of deck are very front-loaded. It's very mulligan and sequencing heavy. So whereas you have a blue deck where, you know, you can kind of shape your game as you go, and you have ponders, and you have a lot of ways of greasing the wheels. This sort of deck, you don't have those margins in it. Now, this deck is incredibly powerful, and I think it's going to see a ban, and probably needs to at some point. But the format has adjusted to it a little bit now, so it's not quite as dominant as it was. And Delver is still the best deck, which also needs a ban. So with that done, we're just going to do one little plug and say like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and they help my channel out immensely, especially subscribers. I'm getting very close to monetization now, so the more subscribers I can get, the better for me. The quicker I can do it. I'm hoping to get it done before April, but if we can get it done like mid-March, that would be beautiful. All right, plug done. Let's jump into a league with Sahar's tournament-winning deck list. So we are on the draw. This is our opening hand. We have turn 2 uncounterable, turn 2 uncounterable White Plume Adventurer into turn 3 Seasoned Dungeoneer. That's pretty good. Maybe we can do better. I think we keep this one. And we try and draw a little bit more gas rather than lands, but I think we're in a reasonable spot here. Ancient Tomb from our opponent. What are they on? There's probably going to be a Chalice of the Void, which is blank against us because we run it ourselves. So that's pretty good start for us. It's over to us. What are we playing here? A Cavern of Souls. Okay, so we get to cast an uncounterable White Plume into an uncounterable Seasoned Dungeoneer. So we'll play this one out, and we'll name Cleric, because we have more Clerics on our deck than Orcs. You could definitely argue that this hand is a little bit slow. Oh wow, they didn't do anything on their turn. Or they passed through it by accident. Which I have done on many occasions, unfortunately. Cast this, so we would like white mana and 2. And then we're going to get the initiative from this, which puts us into the Undercity. The first room of which is Searching Library for basic land. That's the other planes. And then next turn we cast a Seasoned Dungeoneer and we can attack for potentially 6 damage. Our opponent did not have a play on turn 2. Was that a misclick? No, it was not. That's a little bit unfortunate for our opponent. So we're going to go Forge and put 2 counters on this White Plume Adventurer. Make it into a 5/5. And then we're going to tap this for 2. We're going to play this and lose our City of Traitors, and we're going to name Human. So we have uncounterable mana from this and colorless mana from this. The reason we cast this first is because the attack trigger will work on the White Plume. And we'll also go further into Dungeon here, so we get to hit our opponent for 5. That's a big chunk out of their life total. And then we go to attacks. And then we get to do the Seasoned Dungeoneer thing. So we can either keep this on top of our library, or we can put it into the graveyard. I'm going to put it on top of our library. I think this is better than an average draw, because our opponent's also a little bit mana screwed over there. Now next turn they're going to be taking 9, possibly 10. So they should be dead next turn. We have the ability to Solitude anything out of play that they might have. So I'm feeling rather confident about where we stand right now. But I'd like a little bit more information about what our opponent's doing. So next turn, if I get the chance, I'm going to cast Elite Spellbinder. Okay, sure. There is an argument for casting Elite Spellbinder there, just to make sure that we can see what our opponent's doing. But again, I'm not sure. We should probably just play the thing that wins the game, rather than trying to get cute for the information, even though the chances of us winning the game were very high already. Okay, sideboard. We don't really know what our opponent does, apart from Ancient Tomb into Chalice. So I have to imagine that they're on some sort of prison-y type deck, because if they're an initiative deck, they don't keep that hand, because that's absolute awful. But if they're a prison deck, that's maybe something they'll keep. So possibly we're looking like we're definitely going to be wanting some sort of like Lorana the Third Path type thing. If they're playing Chalice, we just get to board out our Chalices for free and then chuck some cards in and see how we feel. So a couple of Lauren of the Third Path seem all right to me. And we build and touch the Spirit Realm in case they've got artifacts that we want to blow up. That seems fine. And then we have one card that we can kind of have a little bit of a free roll with. I think we're probably looking at a Plow. Yes, they have Chalice, but they're probably going to board out their Chalices as well. So I think this is probably where we're at here. And then we'll click Submit. Now, the core of our deck is just very powerful, so it's not the end of the world if something goes... If we don't have the exact right tools that we would necessarily want, because what our deck naturally does is very powerful, but not with this hand. We don't have any threats, and our deck needs threats. We're going to mulligan. Okay, so this makes a turn 1 white plume. So we're going to keep this. We have a choice of what we keep here. I think we keep... It doesn't really matter what white card we keep, although if we draw another white card, we might be able to put one in... like the one we want in. I think we probably want to keep the Eiganjo just in case we draw a... Actually, no, we're going to be drawing a Plains, aren't we? Pretty sharpish. So we probably want to just get rid of the seat because we're going to get a Plains off of our first trigger here. That's going to give us 4 mana. So this seems like the highest upside for us, and the downside of it seems very low. Because I suspect our opponent isn't a counterspell deck. Although they might have been. Maybe that's why the Chalice... They played a Chalice with some like Force of Will backup or something, and then they just... Okay, yep, so they're on the 8 cast. So they did have like a Force of Will backup. So that explains why they kept their hand a bit more. Let's see how we go. A Lotus Petal. So we're playing out the Chrome Mox here. And we're probably imprinting the Solitude, I think. Because this Touch of the Spirit Realm, I think, is just going to be better in this matchup. For the most part. We can play out our City of Traitors. And we can play this one out. I'm not expecting this white plume to resolve. I'm expecting it to eat a Force of Will. But the second one I'm expecting to resolve. But if we get to him to Torak our opponent with this white plume, that's pretty good. I'll take that 2 for 1. Oh no, we're just getting it. Interesting. This means our opponent might have something like a Dismember. Which means I'm probably going to Lost Well rather than Forge next turn, I think. Do we need to play out this Lotus Petal to represent something? I think that's fine. There could be a world where our opponent is not necessarily on 8 cast, but on something more like the Echo Eons deck. It's unlikely, but I suspect. It's a possibility, but that I can play around for it. Okay, this is definitely starting to look very much like 8 cast. We need to find out if they're on the Painter build or if they're on the regular. Okay, it's a Cap Cannoneer. Again, this is a sideboard card, but because we're in a sideboard game, it's not necessarily sure which version it is. Excuse me. Alright, so they don't have Dismember mana up now. So we can just go hard here. So we can just Forge up. Just make our guy large. Because they're not going to want to block with their Emery here. But we might force them into a situation where they kind of have to. So now we have a choice of whether we play our Elite Spellbinder out or try our White Plume Adventurer. I think being able to see what's in our opponent's hand right now might be quite an important one to do. Because what we can also do is if we lose the initiative for some reason, we can use our White Plume Adventurer to get it back from our hand there. We can also flicker our other White Plume, but I'd rather not flicker one that's already got these things. Okay, Force of Will, Thought Monitor. Sure. So we have an option here. We can play out our Plains to hold up Touch of the Spirit Realm, but that will cost us our City of Traitors. Now, if we don't have to use Touch of the Spirit Realm, then we still have the mana to White Plume next turn. But if we do have to use Touch of the Spirit Realm, we won't be able to White Plume. But if we do have to use Touch of the Spirit Realm, then I'll be glad that I played the Plains. So I think the conclusion here is that we do this. If we have to use a Touch of the Spirit Realm, that's fine. So this will untap itself. And we'll see how we go. So their Ezra Saga is going to start pumping out tokens, but we can Touch the Spirit Realm a token on our turn if we want to. They will need to play quite a few artifacts to make it scary enough to tackle with our guy. A Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay, so this definitely says Painted to me. So we're probably dead next turn if they have a Paint. Oh no, they are the... Okay, so we're going to be very happy that we had this Touch the Spirit Realm in a second. If they have the... Alright, let's see. They're going to play their Lion's Eye Diamond. Sure. Sure, you can have that one. 6 mana. Echo Beyond. So we have a response to this. So we are going to target this, paying white and white. So this goes away until end of turn, so we both draw 7 here. And they don't get any free mana out of it. And now we have a lot of riches here. Now our opponent's got 3 mana up still. So they might have some additional plays here. It's going to be a little bit tricky for them. We have a Thalia, which is going to be pretty good in this matchup. Actually quite like Chalice here for game 3 potentially, just to stop the 0 drops if we're on the play. Thoughtcast, sure. So our opponent's going to take 10 if they don't block next turn. And we have a Palace Jailer that we can use. So I imagine they're going to counter the Palace Jailer. So perhaps we fish with the Solitude on the Hull Breacher. So we're going to get their Hull Breacher back now. So we will go to Trap. We will dome our opponent. And we'll draw a card. So we've got a lot of options here. I think step 1 is going to be play out this Ancient Tomb. So I think we want to try the free spell first. I think we're going to cast this, exiling, I think it's the, or is it the White Plume, or is it the Seasoned Dungeoneer? The Seasoned Dungeoneer could be more useful if this doesn't work, I think. The Thalia is going to stop them being able to cantrip a lot and playing all their things out, so I think it's going to be the White Plume Adventurer here. Oh wow, okay. Evoke trigger on the bottom. Get rid of this Hull Breacher. No, thank you. That does give them a little bit of life, but not enough for us to really worry about. So when this comes across. So the things I'm worried about right now is Painter's Servant and then this getting Grindstone. So we're going to play our best to try and beat that. I think the way we do that is by playing... If we play Thalia out, we can't plow. If we play out any of these things, we can't do any of those things. So I think we're just supposed to pass holding up our plow. This also stops us getting blown out by a Hull Breacher. The other option we had was trying to plow the Emery. But the Emery doesn't really have anything other than a bauble going on right now. Now they can get back the lines of diamond if they're going to be wheeling. But if they're wheeling, then we get to do various things anyway. Okay, so we're going to see what they get off of this. If it's the Grindstone, then could be tight. But I think if it was the Grindstone, they would tap for mana there. Okay, so we've just gone for a Mox Opal. So we might be looking at another wheel here. But we have a removal spell. If we need it, they do have a whole bunch of cards in hand though. But they do have to crack their diamond to get the wheel going. So this should be fine for us. I'm not a big fan of these wheel decks. I think the best version of 8-cast right now was definitely the Painter build as well. Okay, so discard all these things. They're going to play Alliance of Diamond. Sure. See, this is the problem. They got all these counter spells, but they're not going to be able to counter our spell because they don't have any cards in their hand. Goodbye, Hull Breacher. And we get a new set of cards. Okay. We've got Loran. We can blow up the construct, bash for 5, and play a White Plume. Okay. So this is a slight problem. This is why I kept the Seasoned Dungeoneer before. We can go into Throne of the Dead 3 this turn if we want to, provided this can resolve. Okay, we're just going again, are we? We don't have any free spells here, and we don't have anything we can cast right now, so let's just have some more cards, I guess. Okay, so this hand is way worse. Not a fan of this. So they're going to have quite a lot of tokens now. We're looking for Seasoned Dungeoneer, really. We do get to go into the Archives next turn. Okay, this could be a little tough, but we'll see how we get on. If we can resolve a Seasoned Dungeoneer and attack, then we'll be fine, but we need to draw one first. Touch of the Spirit Realm. Interesting. We have a lot of options. A lot of options. This being a 9/9, not a thing I'm a massive fan of, to be honest. So we're definitely playing out our Lotus Petal here. We could play out our Emeria's Call, perhaps. Let's have a think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We could play out Emeria's Call, which gives us flyers. But then we don't have the mana to really deal with this construct token. Because I think we need to blink this out. If we attack, we're just going to get ourselves into a spot of bother that way, aren't we? I guess if we play... How long are they indestructible? Until your non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. So our White Plume would be indestructible. So it would be able to block the construct token without issue. That is something we can think about here as an option. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we have a Chrome Mox for 8. So we can't do multiple things. We have to make a choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we are... Like, if they've got a counter spell, then we should probably be playing the Spellbinder. Because the Touch of the Spirit Realm is going to be useful here. What we can do is we can block, and then we can blink our White Plume to get the initiative back and go into Throne of the Dead 3. A lot of options here. I think we just need to do this to begin with to see what our opponent's hand looks like. Need to make sure they don't have a way of getting rid of our White Plume or something like that. Force of Will, pitching Emery. So we have a choice when it comes to the Touch of the Spirit Realm. We can either use it to blink our White Plume, or we can use it to blink out the token. If we're blinking out the token, we're definitely not attacking. If we are if we blink out a token, we could attack. But they could block with all their things, and I could take out Psy and 1 Thopter, and then they're in a reasonable position. So I think what we do is we are going to block the block the Construct token to save 9 damage, and we're going to blink out our White Plume Adventure with the Touch of the Spirit Realm here. Not in the best of spots. This is sort of the problem card. Obviously, at any point we can Touch the Spirit Realm into Seasoned Dungeoneer, which can just sail through and do an awful lot of damage. Thoughtcast, sure. Now you got cards. If they have a Hull Breacher, we might be forced to Touch the Spirit Realm the Hull Breacher, just so they don't get a whole bunch of treasures, just deploy the whole hand. Going to 5 is an interesting line here. Khan the Great Creator. Interesting. They can Mycosynth Lattice us here. Interesting. Okay, I think we can beat the Lattice if we blink our White Plume and find the White Plume, the Seasoned Dungeoneer, because then our White Plume, we'll need 1 more power to do that, but this can sail through and just kill the Khan. So I think we're okay if they do that, and then we can just deploy a bunch of angels. Mycosynth Lattice, sure. So you get your side token, and then we will blink this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think. Oh wait! Oh no! I've messed this up entirely. I was supposed to tap my stuff in response to the Khan. Oh no! I've messed this up, haven't I? Oh no. Yeah, if I'd have left my mana tapped differently, because I used my planes instead of my Chrome Mox as well to cast a spell earlier. Yeah, I've made a slight mistake here, and it could very well cost us. They get the initiative here. Can we win from this board state? I don't think we can. No, I think we're done here. We can't cast any spells because they're all colourless rather than white. Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. So, Chalices on 0 is something I'm certainly a fan of here. We can dump our 0 drops and then play the Chalice. So that seems pretty useful. The Walking Ballista here, not a big fan of it. I think their guys are going to be too big for us to necessarily want to do anything with that. Lorans still seem good to me. Plow still seems fine. There is an option we can cut some of these things because we're bringing in Chalices. Is that really where I want to be? Maybe trim 1 petal. I think the Thalia is still good here. The Palace Jailer actually feels like a bit of a trap. We could board in another Plow instead of the Jailer. I think this is okay. Kind of tempted to have another Plow, but I think we just play like a big thing and just do our stuff and we're okay. Yeah, let's give this a go. What does this hand do? This makes a Chalice for 0 and then doesn't really go anywhere. I think we can do better. What does this do? This makes a turn 1 Thalia, an uncounterable turn 1 Thalia, into a turn 2 nothing. So is Thalia on turn 1 good enough? We would need to find another land in 2 draw steps to cast. I think this is good enough. I'm going to keep this. Do I want the Spellbinder or do I want the Touch? I really like Touch in this matchup. I think we'll keep the Touch and get rid of the Spellbinder. Maybe that's a mistake. Alright. Now our opponent could force our Thalia here. Not our Thalia, our Lotus Petal. So, we'll play the Petal out first. If they see the Cavern, they'll be more likely to drop a force or something on this. To play this out named Human, because there's a lot of humans on our deck. And I'm just going to go for this Thalia. And hopefully this slows them down, and then we can draw a land in the near future. Now, they might have boarded in some dismembers, which can kill this. But this stops them from being able to do, like, unload their whole hand, redraws, and stuff like this. So they have to pay 1 for all of their 0 drops, which is pretty bad. Ancient Tomb. Okay. So we can't use this to cast our thing yet. So we're going to play this. We could play it untapped. Do we think our life total is significant in this matchup? We have an Ancient Tomb, so I think I'm going to hold back a little bit here. If they had a dismember, they would have snapped it off on the Thalia, I think. Oh, wait, no, they need the second mana source to do that, wouldn't they? I think we pay 3 life if we have to. But then if they do try and kill the Thalia and we flicker it, oh, it's just tough. It's a tough choice, actually. So let's take us through. Yeah, I think we take the damage here and hold something up. It's quite obvious that we're holding up Touch of the Spirit Realm. But I think that's still fine. Like if they go to kill our Thalia and we flicker it, they will get a window where they get to play all their little 0 drops. Okay, so they're holding up Hull Breacher at end of turn. At our end of turn, perhaps. Psy Master Thopterist. This is pretty good at blunting what we're doing. So we could Touch the Spirit Realm this, because this is quite a powerful card against us. I think Touch the Spirit Realm costs us 4 mana is the issue because of our own Thalia. So we can't play that and the Chalice. But I think this is worth getting out of play. It's just too strong. What we're trying to do here. They can't counterspell this because they don't have any mana up, so we know it's going to kill the Psy. Nope. Your Force of Will doesn't work. They were trying to play a Force of Will there, but they forgot about the Thalia attacks. So next turn we can cast White Plume and Chalice for 0 on the mana we currently have. Chalice for 0 should be pretty strong against our opponent. This is a good win condition that our opponent can utilise here. They can sort of ignore our Thalia attacks and just pump out a load of tokens. I don't fear a Painter's Servant combo out of our opponent anymore after game 2, but I do worry that they might be able to sort of like churn a load of stuff out and get us. Sure. 1 mana for an Urza's Bauble. Okay, so we kind of get to have all the things we want here. So we can play this on Cleric. So we get to cast ourselves an Uncounterable White Plume. Big fan of that. So we get a card out of our library. So our opponent doesn't have 2 artifacts, doesn't have 3 artifacts in place. They have 3 mana, so they can play a Hull Breacher, which is a 3/2, which our Thalia will gobble up. And then we get to untap our Thalia next turn anyway, because of how White Plume Venture works. And then we're going to cast this. Let's leave up our thing to represent a plow or something. Even though we have a Thalia in play, we can represent it if they kill the Thalia, we might be able to plow. Is this good enough for that Force of Will you've been keeping in your hand? I suspect it is. But that's going to cost you a blue card, which you might not have. Well, they had one last time actually, because they started paying costs. But it might be something like a Hull Breacher they were hoping to deploy. Yeah, it looks like Force of Will here. It does put our opponent to 10, which is a very important number. Thoughtcast. Okay, sure. So down to 2 cards in hand. We've got 5 power on board, and we're going to go into the Forge next turn. Untap our Thalia, so we've got a nice first strike blocker. Not that our opponent's going to be sending anything our way right now. The Saga getting a LED can actually play around the Chalice for 0 if it's just the LED, but all the things they have off of it are all 0 as well. So they've got 2 artifacts. This will be a 3/3 when it goes. So I think we are... This is an interesting choice, actually, as to what we forge up. So we can forge up the Thalia and have a 4 power first striker, or we can forge up the White Plume and have a 5 power guy just crashing in all the time. We only get to tap 1 creature. I think I'm just going to put it on the White Plume so we can try and end the game. We could have gone down the Scry route here, but I think we need to end this game before our opponent gets to do too much. Okay, Touch the Spirit Realm, pretty nice. This punishes us for putting the counters here though, because we flicker them, we lose the counters. We're just going to attack with this because of the Saga. We could flicker the Saga out of the way, but I think this is going to have more use. Flicker the token out of the way, but I think this could have more use for us down the line. So this is going to... if we flicker this out, we hit them for 5 though, they're like dead, right? Maybe we should have tapped with the Thalia as well. But, yeah. So this is uncounterable apart from Stifles. I think if we attack with the Thalia there, maybe get 2 more damage in. But this gives us lethal in our upkeep next turn if they don't deploy a threat. And it keeps our Thalia safe from shenanigans. They know we've got planes in hand, but they might have forgotten. So they need to either gain some life or get the initiative this turn, which I suspect is going to be very, very challenging for them. So like a Khan Mycosynth Lock doesn't stop us from killing them. If they're just making a token here, they're in trouble. This is the power of the initiative here. We just got this 5 damage stored up. Whenever you play against the initiative, you're playing against an aggro deck where you basically start on 15 life, which is pretty scary. So they're tapping mana here. So we would beat a Painter Servant kill here anyway, because in our upkeep we trap them. They don't have Painter Servant. They have a Lion's Eye Diamond. Sure. And now they're on 2 life. They're going to cast their Hull Breacher. This is going to be a Desperation Echo, because they need to do something. Because right now they are dead on board. This does give them a lot of mana to work with. But I don't know if they have... I guess they probably have Walking Ballista kill. If they can generate enough mana maybe. But that's going to be a lot of mana they need to generate. So they probably need to do several more iterations of wheels. But that costs them all their treasure. It's going to cost them treasure tokens to play out the LED. It's going to cost them treasure tokens to play out the Echo. So they have to do several loops to get more mana, and that's still not enough unless they've got an infinite combo for mana in there. I suspect we have this one. But we could have maybe won the previous game if I'd attacked my mana differently. I see this side is pretty useful. White mana. Have they got an initiative guy? That would be a Kappa Cannoneer. Okay, we don't care about this. That's just a guy. We're going to have 6 through this turn anyway. We're just waiting to kill them in our upkeep. Alright, they got something else. 3 mana. 4. 5. Oh, they're casting another Kappa Cannoneer. Sure, that's fine. Yeah, if we'd have attacked with a Thalia last time, we could have shut them off of Ancient Tomb activations as well. Trap you. Yeah, so we got that one. Felt pretty good. We have pretty useful tools for this matchup. The Chalice plus Thalia combo is sort of a nice prison element to have as well as your big creatures. And we saw how much the Thalia slowed down our opponent's entire game plan there, having to like pay 1 for their Mox Opal, pay 1 for their board. By the time their Mox Opal was online, it was too late. If they'd started with the Seat of the Synod, they might have been able to go a turn quicker. They might have been able to get us, but yeah, pretty happy with that one. Let's go to round 2. We're into round 2. This is the hand we've been dealt. I don't like it really. We don't have the best thing we want to do, and we don't have a great mana base here either. We're pretty much just undone by a single wasteland as well. So we're just going to mulligan this one. This hand also looks pretty bad, so we're going to mulligan this one. This needs a white source. We have 2 turns to draw a white source. Let's just check how many we have in the deck. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 21 white sources, which is more than... Yes, that's more than a third of the deck. So maybe we'll be okay. Like, this hand doesn't feel special though. Like, we have Chalice for 1 on turn 1, followed by possibly something, but we might be able to just drop a Walking Ballista after that, and which again isn't great either. I think we just need to mulligan. Okay, so this is on 4. I think we have to keep this one. So we can have an uncounterable Thalia, a Chalice, and that's it. How important is the uncounterable Thalia? That's going to feel bad if we draw other creatures. But I think there's definitely a cost for not keeping the white source here. I think we will roll like this though. Turn 1 Chalice. Wow, is it turn 1 Chalice? If we turn 1 Chalice, turn 1, 2, oh, okay. Our opponent's played a Vault of Whispers. So we're not chalicing on turn 1. Our opponent is the mono-black Storm deck with Urza Saga. Tony Scapone special. So we'll play this out and name human. And then we at least have something that interacts with them quite nicely on next turn. We have So if they Thoughtseize us, we have 2 things that we can interact with our opponent with. Now they might just kill us this turn. Cabal Therapy. So I'm going to name Thalia, and then we're going to hit them with an Elite Spellbinder next turn. Yep. I love Cabal Therapy as a card. Really rewards format knowledge and understanding your own weaknesses and stuff in a matchup. So, we're going to cast this thing they know about. Let's see if it's any good. So we can take something like an Ad Nauseam out of their hand, or... Yikes. How many Tendrils they have in their deck? I believe the deck list has 1 Tendrils main, 1 Tendrils sideboard with 1 Burning Wish in their main deck. But I think what we have to take here is the Wishful Talisman, because this is the easiest route to... like we could just take the Ritual and just turn it off, so it's just free Storm but doesn't actually accelerate them. Like without acceleration, their hand's going to be a bit tricky to do anything with here. I think we do that. Doesn't feel special, to be honest. If this was a discard effect, then I would probably just take the Wishclaw Talisman, but I don't think... Because they would just play a land, Dark Ritual, Wishclaw Talisman, and that would be fine for them. Whereas they can play the Wishclaw out now, but the thing is they need to get to 5 mana to cast the Ad Nauseam, and they can't do that just yet. So we need to try and put some hurt on our opponent. Oh, that's a very good draw. Arguably the best draw in the deck. Nice little Thalia for us. Sorry, opponent. That might be enough for a concession. We'll see. It's going to be tough for them to beat the Thalia like this. So the Dark Ritual costs 4. Yeah, so the Dark Ritual costs 4 to make them 3 mana. So it's pay 1, get a Storm, but nothing for it, effectively. So the Dark Ritual's basically gone now. They tutor with Wishclaw Talisman, pay 1, play Lion's Eye Diamond. The thing is, they're just going to end up giving us the Wishclaw Talisman if they do that. Now, whether or not we can capitalize on it is another thing. But if they Wishclaw Talisman for Lion's Eye Diamond, the next turn, they're still not close enough. They need 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds to even think about putting an Ad Nauseam on the stack. And if that's a 2-turn line, they're not going to have a lot of life to work with. So I like the spot we're in. Just playing a fair game. Okay. So they might have another line that's quite different. They could be getting an Urza Saga. Just playing the Saga out. Yeah, there you go. Called it. Sure. So this is what their plan is now. So they're just going to try and make some large constructs and beat us in combat. And then use this to get an LED. So this is kind of like getting an LED, but with a little bit of protection. Because they can chump block. Well, they can probably more than chump block. Because these are going to be quite large, right? So, pretty nice. Okay. Attack with all creatures. We do have a flyer, though, which is certainly going to be useful for us. We can get a White Plume Adventurer and give them their talisman back. If we want to. How do I feel about a White Plume Adventurer on this particular board? Also, how do I feel about giving them another Wishclaw Talisman? Have we got any other... Oh, we could get... Oh, no, we get the Archon here, don't we? The Archon flies. It stops them from storming. But is that what we care about? Do we care about our opponent storming at this point with a Thalia in play and knowing that their hand is kind of bad? Or are we just trying to get rid of the Urza Saga? Let's have a quick look at our deck list. So, we could go get Solitude, but that's going to give him a bunch of health and not be the most useful. We get Touch of the Spirit Realm, which would be pretty useful in this position. Interesting. We get Chalice to stop them playing 0 drops. It's a case of, do we want to give our opponent a Wishclaw Talisman or not? We can always just put the counters on the Spellbinder if we get a... I think we're just going to do this. If we just get a White Plume Adventurer here, we get the land back as well. Like, the Archon is pretty good against their Storm plan, but I don't think they can storm through the Thalia with their current resources. Play this on Cleric. So this gets us a land to replace the City of Traitors we lost. And it means that next turn we get to make our flyer a 5/5. So we get to bash for 5. I guess we'll untap the Thalia. Yeah, so we get to bash for 5 in the air. And then the next turn we get to bash for 5 and dome them for 5. And that should be game. They do get another draw off of their Mistress Bauble, and they do have the Wishclaw Talisman. So next turn they get the a Shadow Spear, which could prove awkward for us, actually. We might need to do something about that. Sure. Another Saga. Okay. Let's forge onto our flyer. So we're trying to race against the... so I can make one token. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 power. So we can only attack with our flyer here. Play this out. Do we want a Ballista for 2 when we have a 5 power flyer? I think that's good enough. So they will make a large construct here, and it will get a Shadow Spear, which is a bit of a problem for us. But if they attack with their construct token, we do get to make... We do get to leave them with less blockers on the backswing, but they probably have enough mana to make a token here and then swap the Shadow Spear. No, okay, they're tapping in a way that they only get to equip the Shadow Spear once. So they can gain 7. Oh, yeah, 7. So they go up to 14. And on the backswing, we hit them for 5. So we hit them for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have lethal if they attack with the Shadow Spear construct token here. If they play a Mox Opal, okay, another Saga. Sure. So it's going to hit us for a big chunk. But if they don't have the mana to re-equip this, then we're fine. They've already played a land, so this basic swamp they're going to find won't do them any good. An Ancient Tomb. So if we swing with everything, this blocks this guy, and they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we dome them for 5 when we go into the next stage of the dungeon. We also have 2 points from our Walking Ballista that we can ping off as well. Ping for 1. Ping for 1. Then we go and get this. Go into the trap. So this is from the first strike. And then the Elite Spellbinder will hit. Okay. So, sideboarding. What are we doing here? The Loran has text here. The Chalice is going to be very good. It's another Chalice on 0 matchup. Palace Jailer, kind of iffy, but like playable. Same with the Solitudes. So this is probably where we're looking to trim on our deck, I would say. It's a case of which one are we more likely to want here. They don't have too many creatures. So maybe we can trim Solitudes and keep the Palace Jailers. But if they ever do get the Monarch off us, we're going to be in trouble. Actually, what am I doing? Should be the Walking Ballistas, right? These are way worse than these. These can beat down or be removal. So can this. So I'd rather have this than Plows. This is removal and can hit some of their mana rocks. I think we submit like this. Our opponent's deck is slower than things like the Epic Storm and the Epic Gamble. But it's got a much better backup plan in like just giant Saga token. So what does our hand do? Our hand makes a turn 1 Thalia. And then what? It's guaranteed to make a turn 1 Thalia though. So I think we can keep this. That's kind of the card we want to find in the matchup. So if they Thoughtseize us, we still get to make a Thalia. So they duress us, take one of our Chrome Moxes. We had a spare Chrome Mox. And then we get to make Thalia. Now they might have removal for the Thalia this turn. On the next turn. So we might need to have a little think about that. A Loran on the third path is rather nice as well. Do we want to get rid of Palace Jailer? So we're definitely playing the Ancient Tomb. We have a choice between keeping a bonus Thalia in case they can remove our Thalia, or getting a Palace Jailer into play. I think, I think we just actually keep the second Thalia because it's so good in this matchup. I think I would rather just have a spare Thalia in case they ever have a Dismember or something. Like, because we drew the Loran as well, we get to blow up their Vault of Whispers on the next turn. Now, we could have done that this turn, but again, I think we're just better off massively slowing our opponent's game plan down. And then we can hit their land, and if we can draw a... Okay, we can, even better, we can hit their Saga. This is going to be brutal. If we can actually get it. Okay, sure. So we'll cast this. This is going to be pretty nice for us. Get rid of your Saga, so your backup plan isn't available to you anymore, and storming is going to be difficult for you, to say the least. I don't know if we're supposed to play this City of Traitors out. I don't think we're supposed to be honest. Like, the only draw that really punishes us is if... Well, it's not even a big punish. It just means we're a turn behind casting our Solitude if we draw a white source. 3 mana Wishcall Talisman, sure. City of Traitors. Okay, I guess we can play this one out now then. Go attacks. Attack with both of our creatures. Get some damage in. And pass the turn. So if they give us the Wishcore Talisman, we can use the Wishcore Talisman to get a Karakas and just constantly bounce our Loran of the Third Path and blow up an artifact every turn. Which might have to... Well, it depends. If they get an Urza Saga, then we'll blow up the Urza Saga. It's going to be pretty awkward for them. I think we've got more or less both halves of their deck. They've only got 2 cards in hand, so it's unlikely that they can storm kill us through a Thalia with their current position. So they got 3 mana in play. A Dark Ritual is plus 1 mana, so that's 4. And they need to get 6 to cast an Ad Nauseam. So that's not possible with their current hand, unless it's in a Lion's Eye Diamond into Wishclaw Talisman line. I think that works. But then they do this big Ad Nauseam and then they just die on the backswing because they won't be able to play all the things they draw. A White Plume Adventure. That's a pretty nice one. Let's attack with the squad. Let's play out our White Plume Adventure. So the lower their life total is, the worse Ad Nauseam is as an out for them anyway. Not that it's really much of an out. Planes. We will play the planes out as well because we have a spare City of Traitors if we need it, and nothing in our deck apart from the Angel Making spell costs that sort of amount of mana. We have the ability to Solitude something away if there's anything scary, but we're dealing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're dealing 9 damage next turn. So we're 1 away from lethal. I don't think we need to start doing Loran card draws because I think we're so far ahead it doesn't. We don't want to give our opponent any chance of getting back into this game. Because they didn't get an Urza Saga last turn, it means that they are pretty much going for the Storm line, unless they've got some way of killing all our guys, like something like a Toxic Deluge. But they will need more mana in order to cast that. And it will cost them life. Our opponents conceded. They took a little think and realised they weren't going to overcome this. So, again, our Prison Elements were pretty effective for us here, much like they were in the first game. We weren't actually really winning with the initiative. It was just the thing that cut a turn out of the game for them, basically. So, yeah, so we sort of showcased how a white Stompy deck without the initiative stuff is still going to be pretty decent. Like when you replace these with other stuff, if and when it gets banned, which I believe the ban announcement is 20th of March. I'm expecting this and something from Delver to go. Anyway, round 3, let's crack on. We're on the play for round 3. We have a hand that I do not like. This is not really aggressive enough. I don't think a Thalia is good enough on its own. Like some matchups it will be, but in the blind, I think we just have to mulligan this and just get something scary down. Something like a turn 1 White Plume Adventure, for example. We'll keep this. What are we pitching? Interesting. So we need the City of Traitors, the Chrome Mox, and some white spell. I think we probably keep the land. That way, if we draw into a Seasoned Dungeoneer, we can cast that. I think we're probably looking at getting rid of the Solitude. Because we have a touch. Like, one of these is what we want. I think because we're on the mull, we should get rid of the Solitude. So let's play this Chrome Mox out. I think this is the touch that goes under this, actually. Is it the touch or is it the Emeria's Core? Because if we get Wastelanded, we're really going to wish we didn't do that. So I think we put the touch underneath it. Reason being that we can play this and then we can play a Thalia, and then any way they try and dig to answers is going to be really horrible for them. They're on 6 cards. And if they are a combo deck, I'd rather have the Thalia as my follow-up play. Okay, so this resolved. Sure. So the worst case scenario was thoroughly avoided there. We got to do our thing. This is probably one of the most powerful starts you can have in a game of Magic at the moment. Although turn 1 Dragon's Rage Chandler, I think, has it beat. Funnily enough. A Tropical Island. Okay, so this could be a Tropical Island and a Chrome and a Mox Opal. Okay. A Jeweled Amulet. I do not know what my opponent is necessarily playing here. The turn 1 Thalia would have been pretty good, as it turns out. So they've got a load of mana. Blue-green is an interesting colour combination. They can have that Chrome Mox. Land Grant. What was that? Okay, so our opponent is playing some sort of Belcher deck. So they're going to get this Galvanic Relay off this turn. Vindictive Flamestoker. Song. Oh, they're the Song of Creation deck. I see. So this Thalia is going to be pretty horrible for them. Let's go into the Forge. Make our guy large. Walking Ballista. Not particularly interested in that one. Let's make a Thalia. Now he's got a decent amount of mana, so we're going for 5 here. The Galvanic Relay is going to be a little bit difficult for them to do stuff with. We have a choice now if we play out a land or not. So we've got 3 mana now. We're going to have 3 mana next turn if we play the Emeria's Call. But if we draw a Seasoned Dungeoneer or a Palace Jailer, that's going to be pretty bad for us. So I think we're supposed to stick with what we have in hand, because we only really need to cast 1 more spell this game probably. So we should just leave ourselves open to cast the best possible spell next turn if we draw it. Like next time we put our opponent to 3. And there's a Saga, sure. I guess we're going to put our opponent to 1 if we like, by playing out the Ballista and having it with 2 counters on. It's probably alright. Vindictive Flamestoker, sure. That's a non-creature, so it doesn't get Thalia taxed. This card is very cool if you saw my video the other day with it. It feels pretty nice. Let's trap our opponent. Just get him dead. Palace Jailer. Okay, I guess we can do this. This guarantees that we connect with our guy. We just put them in a really horrible spot. Okay, charging their Jeweled Amulet. So we're going to be drawing some extra cards now. Puts our opponent to 3. This is pretty nice. We draw an extra card. A Solitude. We'll untap our White Plume Adventurer. Not that it really matters. So next turn we get to draw 2 additional cards on our turn. 1 from Archives, 1 from the Monarch. So this is like another deck that's trying to utilise the whole Urza Saga as a backup plan. So they can cast a Song of Creation, but I'm not really sure that's going to get them anywhere. It's got what? Blue, green, red, 1. Repeal. Is that targeting their Chrome Mox? Interesting. Maybe they're looking for a specific answer. I thought they could have repealed our Thalia, maybe. I guess they have to win this turn, so they need another card to do it with. Alright, so this is probably going to be pretty similar to how we boarded a minute ago. So we get these Lorans in, slow our opponent down. We would like Palace Jailer or Solitude. I think we'll just get rid of some Solitudes for some Plows. Actually, we don't need to do that. Let's just keep the Solitudes in. There is an option for playing Walking Ballistas over these. But again, it's 4 mana for Walking Ballista to kill the little 1/2 guy. And obviously more if you want to kill the other bits and pieces. This seems fine. I think we could board in the ley lines to stop the Echo of Eons. Maybe we're supposed to do that. What does this hand do? It doesn't make turn 1 Archon. It doesn't even make turn 2 Archon because it needs another land. So I think we mulligan this one. This makes turn 1 Thalia. We will keep this. We will get rid of... Our opponent's not going to be countering our spells. They did have blue mana up. So maybe there's a possibility. I think we get rid of this Plains. Because we can always fish that out once we get the initiative. So we need to not die on turn 1. Our opponent's mulled to 4. So we're probably getting a whole new hand. Maybe we're supposed to have the ley lines on the draw and not on the play. Maybe that's where we need to go. I've only played this initiative deck once. It's a little bit different to the Stompy decks I used to play. I used to play Eldrazi Stompy once upon a time, which is very bad these days. Okay, so our opponent's on 4 cards. Are we just spinning the wheel or not? Let's see. A Jeweled Amulet. Okay, that's not a Lion's Eye Diamond. That is a Lion's Eye Diamond. Are we going? We're going. Okay. So we don't get to keep this hand. Spellbinder on turn 1. It's probably fine. If we board in the ley lines there, we are probably in a better shape. So I think we definitely want the ley lines in. That's my bad there. Chrome Mox, sure. While imprinting. A repeal. So our opponent isn't a Belcher deck because they have Urza Sagas in their deck. So they are just on the Song of Creation plan, which looks like what they're casting this turn. You're going to play an additional land. When you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. Okay, we're going to F6 this for now. So what does this card do? Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards, beginning of your end step, discard your hand. Yeah. So if we'd have boarded in the ley lines, then we would have probably won this game already. Well, if we had them in our opening hand, that is. Okay, so I have to discard their hand this turn. I don't mind that. So this turn, we get rid of their Song of Creation. So we play out this. Play out this Chrome Mox. We will imprint an Elite Spellbinder because I don't have any cards in hand. We will cast... Oh, this doesn't hit enchantments, does it? This only hits artifacts. I see. So we can deploy a threat, try and pressure our opponent, or we can get rid of their Lion's Eye Diamond to shrink their amount of mana they have on their turn, and then follow up with a Seasoned Dungeoneer next turn. This Elite Spellbinder is only ever going to be a 3-1 with flying. Do I think a Lion's Eye Diamond... I think we need to get rid of the Lion's Eye Diamond. See, there's not quite an Oblivion Ring here. Right, let's just get rid of this Lion's Eye Diamond. They might crack it if they have a way of... because they have the ways of shuffling it in. So I think they probably should have cracked it in response there. Alright. Putting a counter on Jeweled Amulet. Not one you see very often. Our opponent can make some construct tokens. Song of Creation is going to draw them some cards here. We can pretty much just F6 for our opponent's turn here. A Mox Opal, sure. So the deck is just a lot of zeros. And then into the song. A Petal. Did they not float off their Mox Opal there before they play the other one out? A Lion's Eye Diamond. A Petal. A Narset. So we could be looking at losing all the cards in our hand and our opponent just continuing to go. If that is the thing that's going to happen, then we're just going to watch it play out, I think. Because I don't get to see this deck very often. I've basically only seen it on a couple of Twitter screenshots, really. So it's nice to sort of see it in action. Chrome Mox. Going to keep drawing cards. So one thing to note. This is a mandatory draw 2 cards trigger. So if the thing they need is the bottom card of their library, they could be in trouble. But they have ways of shuffling their library back in with the Echo of Eons. An Ether Spellbomb, sure. It doesn't really matter what they're playing now because they're just cycling through their deck until they find either some sort of storm spell. It could be Brain Freeze. It could be anything really. But we're going to let our opponent have their day and do their comboing off here. A Land Grant, sure. We can see their revealed cards. So they have a Wish. So that should be lethal if they've got Tendrils. If they've only got a Grape Shot, we're going to need to let them play out a few more things. But that shouldn't be difficult for them to get around. They can cast another Land Grant as well. Although they've got the Tiger in hand now, so they can't actually do that one. Empty the Warrens. Okay, so they're making a lot of goblins. We are not really able to beat this. But if our opponent's going to go off and kill us, we may as well, you know, have a look at it. See something cool. If they can kill us this turn, or they might just be doing the goblins just because it's the easy way of just cleaning us up next turn rather than keep going through their deck. But I have to imagine they have a way of being able to kill us this turn. Maybe they're just trying to kill us with all these Empty the Warrens as well as a Grape Shot. So we'll let them do it and get a nice little Twitter screenshot for themselves. There we go. So Storm is 17. So one more and then they can wish for the Grape Shot. There's the wish. Oh no, we're on 18 actually, aren't we? So we're going to get Grape Shotted, I assume. Yeah, so there is a Grape Shot. So we'll let them put their Grape Shots on the stack and then we'll concede. Oh, we can't concede because we have passed priority. Sure. So we were pretty punished for not having the ley lines in there, and that's my bad. Just keep it in, get rid of Solitudes, I reckon. Palace Jailer seems pretty nice here. We take away their creature, they don't get it back, they don't get life either. Alright. I think on the play we are in a pretty good shape. Chalice and Thalia are both in our deck, so they are both in our opening hand. We only get to cast one of them on turn 1 though. But that's fine. So I think we keep this. We're playing Chalice for 0, as I'm sure you gathered. So play this for 0. Then we will play this on human. Now we've already seen repeals in their deck, so I do have answers to this. But they might struggle to get enough mana up to do it. Vindictive Flamestoker, sure. Let's just play out an ordinary plains here. Play out our Thalia. So we've got them covered on 0 spells, and any sort of bounce spell is going to cost them a decent chunk here. Yeah. So they're just casting spells to power out their Flamestoker here. So they're going to have to pay 7 mana to get the cards out of this because their 0 spells cost 1. So it's going to be a little while till this gets us. We should be able to just Palace Jailer it next turn and start drawing 2 cards a turn. We have a spare Thalia if we want it. Play this one out. So this is on human. Let's get this lad on the go. Get rid of their Flamestoker. Bash for 2. It's not the most impressive clock, but we can draw some stuff to go with it, and we're drawing a lot of cards. Okay, yeah, there you go. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Both of our creatures are soldiers, so we won't get the pump on the first turn we play it, but it will close the game pretty quickly after that. A land grant. Let's see what our opponent's got and work out how we lose this game. Hurkyl's Recall is pretty useful. So they just play the Tropical Island, sure. Emeria's Call. We don't really care for that one. We can probably play it next turn. No, we need another white source for that. I think we'll play out this City of Traitors so we don't have to hurt ourselves. We don't really need to cast this pre-combat, to be honest, but we're going to. We know what our opponent's hand is. Doesn't really matter. So next turn we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, I've made a mistake in terms of playing that city, haven't I? Oops. Stops us playing the Emeria's Call next turn. Although we should have them dead in 2 turns anyway. Haven't quite done the maths, but it feels like they're dead in 2 turns. Because they take 4 this turn, they take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 next turn, and then turn after they're dead. Okay, so we've got more disruption as well. So there's the Saga, so that's our draw for the turn. Let's Forge. Stick it on the Seasoned Dungeoneer, I guess. This is the hardest one for them to repeal. I guess the Palace Jailer is the same as well, actually. Okay. Tap little creatures. Let's see what this finds. Put into graveyard. So we just get to play the White Plume and kill them this turn. We go into trap and we dome them for 5. With our stupid mechanic. Trap. 5E. So I think we've won every last game of every round with a trap, actually. Yeah, so we made a mistake by not bringing the ley lines in game 2. That's on me. I was basically just like, oh, I'll just do the same boarding as the previous Storm deck. Obviously, the previous Storm deck wasn't a Nick Hervion's deck. So I kind of autopiloted that one a little bit, which is my bad. But as you can see, our deck is very good against this deck on the play because we have the ability to make turn 1 Thalia and we have Chalices in our deck. And we have both of them, which is a good start. So we are 3-0, cruising nicely. Let's go into the 4th round. We're on the play for round 4. What does our hand do? It makes a turn 1 Archon of Emeria and then nothing else. And we kind of used in a lot of our hands. So this hand is basically turn 1 Archon of Emeria, then nothing. Statistically speaking, surely we're not playing another Storm deck, so this isn't something I want. So I think we just mulligan and try and get something that's a little bit beefier. So what does this hand do? This makes a turn 1 White Plume, which is what we came here to do. So we can keep this. We do need to keep the Chrome Mox, though. And we need to keep all of our white cards. So it's either the Chalice or the Petal that goes. I think it's probably the Petal here, because the White Plume is going to find us a land anyway. And we have 2 White Plumes to try it with in the end. So I think we Chrome Mox imprinting Elite Spellbinder. Let's play this one out. So I'll put in this little Elite Spellbinder. Play this City of Traitors. And play this. Do I get to discard 2 cards from my opponent's hand, or do I get to go into the dungeon? We're into the dungeon. Excellent. Sure. So next turn we can play our second White Plume, or we can play the Chalice, depending on what our opponent's deck looks like they're doing. Once we get a bit more information, we'll understand what we need to do here. Like if they start trying to play cantrips, then we're just going to play the Chalice. Verdant Catacombs. This usually means Reanimator, because of Black Bayou though, so maybe not. This could be something like Newton Elves, a Snuff Out, sure. A Llanowar Elves. Okay. Back over to us. So now we're going to go down the Lost Well, because we don't have a creature to forge up. So we're going to scry 2. I don't think we want this Chrome Mox, so that can go on the bottom of the library. Do we want a Thalia? We can play Thalia and Chalice this turn, right? That's probably quite a good play. But how good is the Thalia going to be against our opponent? It can slow down a bunch of their stuff. So I think this is good enough. Although the one downside here is we do lose our ability to cast the White Plume if we don't do that. So maybe we should be casting the White Plume. But I do like the Chalice into this deck that's led out with Llanowar Elves. I think we are just going to play the White Plume here. just get further into... We can also get a stash here if we want it. There's no point goading that guy. I think the stash is actually going to come in useful for us here, because we can do this and then play the Thalia here. So we go stash, get treasure. Yeah, so we can do this. Then we can play out our planes. We lose our thing, unfortunately. But we do get to deploy this Chalice for 1 against a deck that's playing Llanowar Elves. Now, they might just be able to Green Sun Zenith for a... What's it called? Allosaurus Shepherd. So they get to blank the Chalice after that. But that's a turn they have to do searching for the Allosaurus Shepherd, which might not be what they want. Lair of the Hydra. Okay. It's not one I see a lot. Okay, they just had the natural Allosaurus Shepherd. A little bit less good for us. So our Chalice would have been better as a Thalia, most likely, because at least that can attack. But next time we get a Spooky Skeleton, and turn after we get to go Throne of the Dead 3. Fiend Artisan. Okay, this card's pretty good. So our Chalice is doing nothing here. It's a bit of a waste of our stash, sadly. But Spooky Skeleton time, so that's fun. Ancient Tomb. So let's deploy our Thalia. Might as well play out our land. Go to tax. I doubt they're going to put either of these under the bus. And if they do, that's fine by me. We're on a slower clock because we didn't get to forge. Our 3/3 also untaps, so we've got that back for blocks. And next turn we get to go into the final room of the dungeon, which is Throne of the Dead 3. If we find a Seasoned Dungeoneer, we can really hammer away at our opponent that way. Because we get to pump our guy to attack with. We get to go through their blockers. Because obviously blockers are something they're definitely accumulating a lot of right now. But they are quite flimsy at the moment. So I'm not too bothered about them. So we can attack into them and they'd have to put 3 creatures in front of a Thalia. I guess the first strike... No, it depends the order actually. As long as I don't make a mistake. Okay, so they're doing a Green Sun Zenith here. What is this finding? It's a Green Sun Zenith for 0, was that? Yeah, so it's a Dryad Arbor. Sure. So this gives the Fiend Artisan something to sacrifice. So we get to go into the super duper room. Seasoned Dungeoneer, I think, is the best pick here because it just gives us the unblockability here. And sends us back into the Undercity. Let's get another land, which slightly thins our draws. An Archon of Emeria. Okay. This is pretty useful. This means that we cut off the line our opponent can have to play a Cradle. So I think we go to tax. All our creatures will untap. So how many creatures would we have to put in front of Thalia? Let's put 3 creatures in front of Thalia. Yep, okay. I think we attack with all of these. Let's have a little look with our White Plume. Touch of the Spirit Realm. Do I want Touch of the Spirit Realm? That does give us 5 damage to dome our opponent with next turn. I think we leave this on top of our library. Let's play this out. So they can't play a Cradle and then tap a boatload of mana. And just like get something really scary with Fiend Artisan here. Because it will come in tapped. Which is like one of the scarier things to worry about. Okay, this is just going to be a natural order, is it? I don't think natural order beats us here. This is the only spell they get to cast if it is. Okay, maybe they'll tap him with their Fiend Artisan. Not sure what they can have because we have this unblockable hexproof guy right now. So they have to kill us this turn, really. Unless they can somehow destroy all of our creatures. Which is something I hope doesn't happen. Okay. X is 3. So what is this going to be? A Grist. Okay. I don't care too much about the Grist. I guess they can kill the Archon of Emeria and play a Cradle. But yeah, okay. That felt pretty good for us. So, Leyline of the Void has some text in this matchup because of Fiend Artisan, but I don't think it's where we want to be. I think where we do want to be is probably these Plows. I think these are just going to be better than Chalice, because Chalice can feel like a bit of a joke against these people when they play the Allosaurus Shepherd. So I think this is fine. The other thing that I don't mind here is the Archon of Absolution, because it means it's harder for them to get all their mana, do their thing, and still attack. Containment Priest is pretty good against what they're doing, though. So I think we want the Containment Priest. The Palace Jailers feel bad here because they have lots of little guys. They can go around the edges and steal back the Monarchy and the Initiative, and they can maybe draw their big, scary payoff spell. So I think just Containment Priest and Plows, so they can't do their Green Suns, they can't do their Fiend Artisan, they can't do Natural Order, and then plow just to clean up some little guys and just beat them down. Seems pretty good. Thalia is fine here. It has first strike, so it can attack nicely. It does slow them down a little bit, but I think it's just better than the other options, so it's worth keeping in. The other thing we could think about is having another Touch of the Spirit Realm in favour of a Thalia. I think we probably need to keep these in. I think this is fine. We don't want to overboard too much either. What does our hand do? We shut off. We have a sideboard card. We have some removal. It's going to need a little bit of help, I think. But considering how good Containment Priest is against our opponent, I think this is worth keeping. There is a Misty Rainforest being cracked. We do have an emergency Solitude if stuff starts popping off. Green Sun Zenith, sure. A Walking Ballista. So we could just kill their Dryad Arbor this turn, but that takes us a little bit further away from Containment Priest. Or we could just play this Karakas and kill their Dryad Arbor that way. I think we want to kill the Dryad Arbor. Just trying to think. Maybe we don't need to kill the Dryad Arbor this turn. Maybe we can just hit the Fiend Artisan, because that's like the scary payoff thing, because that finds all of their other bits and pieces. If they start getting near Natural Order mana, we can start messing around with what they're doing. If they missed a land drop, we'd hit the Dryad Arbor, but they didn't. Ooh, this guy's cool. A new guy. Interesting. Is now a good time? It feels a little bit awkward to hit this guy now. Not a fan of that play, really. I think we probably should have just hit it straight off, like we were supposed to. So we play that with this Lotus Petal. And then we can play this out on human, I guess. And what do we want to do here? Like, we can hold up the Containment Priest and maybe try to get them if they cast a Green Sun Zenith. Or alternatively just cast a Containment Priest at the end of the turn. I don't know if they'll see it coming or not, but here we are. Knowing that they have this and Grist, maybe the ley lines are slightly better than I thought they would be. But we'll see. A Findhorn Elves, that can resolve. I'll play a Green Sun Zenith. A Fiend Artisan. Okay. A Wirewood Symbiote. Okay. So our Walking Ballista is going to do some real work this game. Let's put this human in. So what is this? This guy mills cards. So he doesn't have an ultimate. He just gives them some sick value. Understood. What are we drawing here? Swords to Plowshares. I think step 1 is make this Walking Ballista. Step 2 is ping this Fiend Artisan while it's small. Now they can return it with a Tyvar. I'm aware of this. They might have a Snuff Out and they might try to snuff out their own creature. Which is fine for me because we've just got a boatload of removal kicking around in our hand. Like, we can hardcast Solitude next turn, so let's attack Tyvar, I think. Ideally, I don't want to burn my Walking Ballista. It'd be quite nice to get some more damage. Excuse me, some more damage out of it. But we could just ping away the Wirewood Symbiote and leave our opponent with a lot less going on. So this deck is pretty cool that our opponent's running here. They've got this whole Tyvar, Wirewood Symbiote stuff going. So they can get a lot of activations out of a creature. Now, Containment Priest is going to really stop the things they can do with that. Oh, did they try and get a Dryad Arbor with a Containment Priest in play? Oops, indeed. It happens. I'm sure I've done it at some point. Actually, I don't really play against Containment Priest that much, to be fair. But I'm sure eventually I'll do it. So they're going to try and snuff out our Containment Priest. Okay. Not much doing about that. Sure. So we still have Plow and the Walking Ballista activation. Okay, so they're going to bring their Fiend Artisan back, I suspect, here. They could get an Elf to try and get some more mana going, since they just lost their thing. But I suspect it's the Fiend Artisan. Sure. So this can only activate as a sorcery, so we can do stuff in response. We will take this singular point of damage here. So now it's our turn. So this is activate as a sorcery. Yeah. And Eiganjo. So we can play our Solitude now, which I think is pretty good. Get rid of the Fiend Artisan. Probably ping down the Tyvar, I guess. So we're going to play this one out. Cost us our City of Traitors, but that's fine. So we can plow something here, or we can just... So we can kill Tyvar if we want to, or we can just plow. So we could plow the FUNGEON elves, but they'll just bounce with a Wirewood Symbiote. Do we want to... I don't know if we need to ping down the Tyvar yet, because it's not going to be able to -2 and get them anything this turn. And then we should be able to clear the way next turn with our selection of plows and little guy. Opposition agent. Sure. That's a reasonably good target for a plow. It's not an elf, so we don't have to worry about the Wirewood Symbiote being able to ping it off. Alright. What have we got, opponent? 3 mana. They're untapping. Interesting. This feels like they're trying to natural order this turn. I don't like it. Okay, we're going to ping this off so they can't natural order this turn. So they're just going to play their elf out. So we're going to take this damage. And then we're going to kill their Wirewood Symbiote at end step. Then we're going to untap, attack into their Tyvar. So they lose their Tyvar or their FUNGEON elves, which means they won't be able to natural order next turn. And then we play the Thalia, which means that it's going to take them a lot more to natural order. So we're going to attack here. Our guy's got lifelink, so we're doing pretty well. We have a first strike guide to cover the opposition agent. Okay, they're valuing their FUNGEON elves over their Tyvar right now. Interesting. So this can go humans and white, and we can leave up the Karakas to bounce any scary legends that they somehow deploy, as well as being able to save our Thalia if required. So we're in a pretty good position. Elvish Visionary, sure. Got a land? At some point, a cradle was a thing that we're going to have to deal with, I suspect. What now? What have we got? Drawing a Cavern of Souls for turn. Not very exciting. So we can attack with the Thalia and the Solitude. And then we're sort of leaving things up. I think we attack with the Thalia and then bounce and replay it. Again, not very exciting, but I think that's where we're at here. Do we need to bounce and replay it? That puts our shields down against removal. Play this one out. Name Cleric. This is interesting. Do we bounce and replay the Thalia to untap it? Or do we just keep it to play around snuff outs? I think we just play around snuff out. Like if they attack with an opposition agent, we can attack with the Solitude. Or we can block with the Solitude. We've got a lot of options. We do have the slightly better creature, I would say, in Solitude. Elvish Reclaimer. This is a good card too. They can go and get a Cradle, which lets them cast this natural order they've been sitting around with for a while. So we're going to need something. An Ancient Tomb is probably not that something, is it? So we can attack with our Thalia. If something goes wrong, we can always bounce it. So we play our land out. So now it's our opponent's turn. And they should be able to assemble a Gaia's Cradle very soon, which also means that their guys are going to be bigger as well. So I think they can kill us on the next turn. So we need a good draw. An Emeria's Call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are 1 mana shy plus the Thalia attacks. So we're not really getting anywhere with that. These little pokes for 2, very useful. So this will be a 3-3 now. So we can't, 3-4, so we can't even poke into it. I think our opponent's just going to have us here. We've just sort of not really drawn very well for the last few turns, which is the downside of decks like this. We don't have any manipulation. We don't have any like way of tracking. Like obviously, if you get into the initiative, it's pretty good, but we haven't got into initiative this game. And this game looks very different with initiative for multiple reasons, because it changes what our opponent's doing with their creatures as well as what we're doing with ours. A Lair of the Hydra. So this Cradle is going to tap for a bunch, and then they're going to put a Crate Hoof into play and then kill us. If they've got another creature, they might as well play it first. Okay, so they're activating Lair of the Hydra just so they can sacrifice it to the natural order. So it's going to get a Crate Hoof. So their guys are going to get +6/+6 and trample. 6 times 5 is more than our life total. We do get to soak up 3 of that, but then these are all massive, so we'll just concede the game. Alright, going into the third game. Is there anything you want to change about it? I still don't like Chalices against the Allosaurus Shepherd deck. I think that is a losing proposition. I think I would like another removal spell in Touch of the Spirit Realm. I think that might be slightly better than Thalia here. Thalia definitely does some work in certain situations though. It's tough. Like we have so much removable. Spellbinder is pretty useful. The Archon of Emeria is pretty nice to slow them down. I think we just have to submit like this. On the play is a big boost for us as well. We get to come out racing. Ideally, but not with this hand. So we'll just mulligan this one. Okay, this hand doesn't do anything. We need to mulligan again. This hand is real bad. Let's go to 3. Oh, to 4, sorry. Okay, this one we can keep. So we keep 4 cards. So we put back one of the City of Traitors. Then we put back the Thalia. And we have a choice between the Seasoned Dungeoneer or the Plough. Seasoned Dungeoneer is how we're going to get out of this little slump we're in. But we're going to need another mana for this. So I think we have to keep the spell that we can play. This is a reasonable hand for 4. I think it's better than the other hands that we had options for. Because this gets to play Magic for more than one turn. Mr. Rainforest being cracked. Are they getting a Dried Arbor or are they playing a Mana Dork? They're playing a Mana Dork. We might be getting Dried Arbor for Green Sun Zenith. Sure. We don't get to Containment Priest that one. Which is sad. I think we're supposed to plough this. Just stifle our opponent's mana development. We're going to need some help here. That's not it. So, Seasoned Dungeoneer is a good draw now. Any of the creatures bar Solitude, I think, are good in our deck now. We can make a Walking Ballista. What is this going to be? If this is another Green Sun Zenith, it's a Wirewood Symbiote, sure. A Cradle into a Shepherd. Exactly why I don't like Chalice in this matchup. So we can try and use our Containment Priest as a removal spell, but if we draw a card next turn, we're going to feel pretty stupid for not playing this. So let's just play our guy and pass a turn. Or pass to our turn even. Give us something good. Okay, this qualifies as something good. Now this can get snuffed out, for sure. But this gets us another card into our library, which is something I would very much like to do. We will play this out because we have the City of Traitors for next turn anyway. They can block and bounce this, but it costs them mana. So I'm going to do this. They might, it's unlikely, but they could double block here, which I'm also okay with. They're not going to do the block and bounce because they want the mana for next turn. Now I could just natural order us next turn and put the game to bed. They could go and get something scary like a Progenitus and just 2-turn clock us. Which we might be able to... Oh, I know, they can't do that because we have the Containment Priest. But they might have the Snuff Out first. They've got Snuff Out into thing. But I imagine you probably Snuff Out in response to in the attacks step. So you don't take 2 damage. So they probably didn't have the Snuff Out then, but they might have the Snuff Out now. We'll see. I think we are probably in Lost Well territory, depending on what our opponent does. So we can Lost Well, and then we can goad one of their creatures. It probably has to be the Wirewood Symbiote, because the Allosaurus Shepherd can just be bounced by the Wirewood Symbiote instead of going in. So it's just a case of bouncing it instead of actually killing it. What do we got here from the Cradle? 2 mana into a Fiend Artisan. Sure. So there's no point goading this when the time comes, because they can just tap it. Although they can't tap it in the face of a Containment Priest. I guess they can fail to find. So that's probably fine for them. So we have a choice here. I think we will Lost Well, because we don't have anything going on here, and we definitely need a bit more. Okay, so this will go on the bottom of our library. This will go on the top of our library. So now we can play this out. I think we go to attacks. I don't think we want to attack with the Containment Priest anymore. Maybe just attack with this. Now they can Fog with the Allosaurus Shepherd, Wirewood Symbiote trick. Sure. Our White Plume is going to untap anyway. Doesn't matter too much. I think we will be goading this turn so we can have a removal spell available. So we're going to Arena, which is the middle one, which also gives us the ability to go into either of the Catacombs or the Archives. What is this? They're casting a Once Upon a Time in response to our White Plume Adventure. That's interesting. Let's see what they find. An Elvish Reclaimer. Sure. So we take the initiative. We go into Arena. We have choices of who to goad here. I think we do just goad the Wirewood Symbiote though. Because the Fiend Artisan can just pay 1 and tap and not attack. Also, the Wirewood Symbiote is going to enable a lot of their shenanigans. Basically just trying to dodge Snuff Out Natural Order here. We do have to worry about Opposition Agent potentially. It doesn't affect Throne of Dead 3 because that's just reveal the top 10 cards rather than search. But that's a thing that our opponent can play that we need to factor into some of our combat maths. Not that I like doing combat maths. So there's the Elvish Reclaimer we know about. This can go and find lands. Containment Priest is only creature. It stops. An Allosaurus Shepherd. Sure. So they can just start pumping their creatures soon. They only have 2 elves though. So what is this going to find them? And just to buy. Nope. Felt like they were maybe going to go into the Fiend Artisan trap here. So what they can do here is they can sacrifice their Wild Symbiote and remove a card from their deck that they don't want to draw because it goes into exile. It's not like I get it off like Opposition Age or anything. So they can just exile a card from their library instead. Sure. So this isn't a okay, so they're getting the Grist. That's pretty cool. I didn't think that would come into play, if I'm being honest with you. I thought that would be stopped by the Containment Priest. But I guess entering the battlefield, it is a Planeswalker rather than a creature. Huh, that's pretty neat. Alright, so now we get to choose. Do you want a spooky skeleton, or would we like to draw a card? On this board, a 4-1 Menace is actually looking pretty good to me. I think I'll take this 4-1 Menace guy. Please draw something useful, deck. Not very useful. So, my opponent can make these guys quite large. I can't really attack into them because this is bigger than my guys. So I guess we are passing the turn. This is going to be a little bit rough one. They can have 2 5/5s. So we can block. We can use our White Plumes to double block 1. Although the Elvish Reclaimer will be bigger than a 5/5. It will be a 7/7. So we don't want to. So we can double block the Allosaurus Shepherd, which is the one we want to get rid of. So maybe they'll just pump and swing with a 7/7. Then we can put a White Plume and a Skeleton to kill it, perhaps. Not ideal. We really need a little bit of help. I imagine they're going to be trying to get into the throne, trying to stop us getting into the throne this turn. So we might have to throw away some bodies here. Oh my god, what are they casting for this much mana? That's terrifying. A Plague Engineer. So this is probably naming Skeleton. Could name Cleric. But I think just getting the raw number of bodies out of the way is what they're trying to do here. Because if they can get the initiative back, if they can get the initiative off of us, then we're in trouble. But they have to send in a lot of their creatures here. Unless they've got another Cradle. An Assassin's Trophy. Onto our guy. Sure. We don't have any more planes. But I'm just check. Yep. Alright. They're going to get the initiative here. Not good. They also get to Fiend Artisan now. Getting another Fiend Artisan. So they're just getting some large bodies here. So they can attack with 3 guys and lose their Allosaurus Shepherd and Insect Token. Or they can let us go into the throne. I think they're letting us go into the throne because they can create Hoof us next turn. So it's going to have to be pretty good. Archon of Emeria doesn't really do it. White Plume just takes us back into it. Yeah, none of this feels great. Is White Plume better than Archon of Emeria? I don't think so. The only thing with White Plume is if we draw another initiative creature, we can then forge on something else. But I still don't think that helps us very much. We get the Archon of Emeria here. Like, they both have the same toughness, if that's what this game's going to come down to. Okay, so we get to make a guy that's not the smallest here. So we get to make this 3/3 guy. What are we doing with our 3/3 guy? I think step 1 is to ping down this Allosaurus Shepherd. I think step 2 is probably to ping down an insect, but that feels pretty bad. Each opponent loses a bunch of life. I don't really care about that too much. It's tough. And we ping off this insect. And then we can attack in here, but they have a 5/5, so not great. We have a flyer that we can start doing stuff with next turn. They can't do a double. They can't play a second Cradle because of the Archon here. Feels like we're losing this one. So I'm going to create an insect token. I think I'm incentivized to kill this as soon as possible. But being able to untap with a Walking Ballista to keep these down is probably quite nice. Next time we get priority, we're going to have better information about what we're doing here. They might just immediately cast Natural Order, sacrificing their insect, and then we die. Or they can Fiend Artisan, sacrifice their insect, and we die. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they need 1 more mana to Fiend Artisan a Crater Hoofus. Okay. Understood. And we get to crash through onto the grist next turn and do a big chunk of damage. Maybe we're pinging off an insect and finishing off the grist. Or maybe we're supposed to try and come in for lethal. Hard to say. They also have quite a decent board themselves. So we're going to have to see what we draw next turn. So this isn't for a Crater Hoof, if I've calculated correctly. They are one shy of Crater Hoof. So they're just immediately getting rid of the insects, so we never had a chance to ping it. Okay, they're getting a card deeper with this Visionary. If they find the land, it means next turn they can make natural order. And we're going to be in heaps of trouble. So they can Fiend Artisan away this Visionary, if they want to. We could have pinged away the Visionary in response to its own trigger, but I don't think that's where you want to be right now. Like, they have a natural order, they just win, I reckon, anyway. Even if we ping off the Visionary, they're still going to get +5/+5 on all their guys, which is more than we can soak up. Just the Plague Engineer. Interesting. I'm going to maintain having the initiative, even though the next room isn't good for us. I don't want our opponent to have it, because then they have the land they need to do the natural order. This keeps a creature off our opponent's board for the purpose of Cradle. So I think it's good. We want to keep our Walking Ballista around so we can pump some counters up on it. Sure, let's go and not find a land. What do we got next? A Cavern of Souls. A very unhelpful land right now. I think we are going to put a counter on this. They want to snuff it out. Interesting. So, do we kill the grist? I think we have to kill the grist. I don't like it. We're going to lose the initiative, but we get the grist off the board. Well, at least I hope we do. I'm not sure what can happen to stop that. Sure, we got the grist off the board. Natural order. They didn't have natural order in hand, so we would have cast the last turn. We get to untap our guy, and then they've got 4, 5, 6, 7. So they've got less mana than last time. So because of the Archon, they can't Fiend Artisan for the big guy. Now, they could have just drawn a natural order. A Green Sun Zenith. Okay, so this is their only spell of the turn. Is it a second grist? It is a second grist. Okay. So we're going to lose our Archon of Emeria this turn. They're going to sacrifice their Elvish Visionary, smash our big guy down, and then they're going to just beat us down. This is awkward. So I can just send in the 2 Fiend Artisans here. 8 and 8, 16, 17, 18, 19. This puts us to 1. I think we just take it. I don't know how we win this game, to be honest with you. It's been a pretty slow and grindy one. We've bricked a lot on draws, but our deck has that problem. We don't control the top of our deck in any way. And we have a lot of bad draws in our deck with all of our mana acceleration. The idea is that your opening hand should be enough to win you the game. Now, this was a mull to 4, right? So it's a mull to 4, and we've come pretty close until now, really. Another Fiend Artisan, sure. So they've got some guys. Another land? Another land. We are dead. So that took us going to a mull to 4, and we were on top for some amount of time in that game. So if we'd have had a 7-card hand, I think we win this game. It kind of shows you the power that we have. But the trophy is dead now, but we can still 4-1. So let's jump into the last round. We are into the final round. We have a turn 1 White Plume Adventurer into turn 2 Seasoned Dungeoneer. That is like the hand that you want. So we will keep this. The White Plume will be counterable. A mana bond. Okay, so our opponent's not going to be countering our creatures. Are they going to be mana bonding though? Okay. That's some stuff they've got right there. So, Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, Imprint, Solitude, cast this White Plume. They do have a Maze of Ith, which is annoying, for sure. But they don't really have anywhere to go from here. They're just naturally drawing 1 card a turn here. They don't have a Life from Loam or anything, so we should be able to beat around this. Winding Way. That was an incredibly good top deck from our opponent there. And a lot of hits. Oh, wowzers. They just went straight into their combo, did they? Jeez. Yeah, that's the nuts right there. Now, we do actually beat this, which is something. But, and they're getting Field of the Dead tokens, sure. That's what we want here. Are we pumping our guy? I think we do have to pump our guy here. We're going to keep our guy alive. We're going to forge up our creature. Draw for turn. We go to attacks. And they're going to Maze with it. Yup. I suspect we lose here. And play out another land. Doesn't matter which one. Probably not. It's got the plains. If they make a Merit Lage token, we obviously have to give them 20 life. So they attack with 2 zombie tokens. I block 1. They can Maze with their own zombie token if they wish. I suspect they just let it die. Okay, they didn't pay for one of their zombie tokens because they're going to make a 20/20. Makes sense to me. So this zombie's not attacking. We're basically trying to draw a white card here so we can pitch something to Solitude. Can't repair for 5. They're going to be gaining some life back soon. It's not the one we needed, unfortunately. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we can either... I think if we play the Chrome Mox, then just cast our Solitude. That's probably better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I'll play this one out on Elemental. Then we play this out, put in a Seasoned Dungeoneer underneath it. Kind of annoying that I have to do that, but such is life sometimes. Swing in with this guy. Sure, we're just going to Maze with it, but I might as well make them do it. And when they make a 20/20, we will kill it with our Solitude. They are drawing a card with their Horizon Canopy. They did not make a 20/20. Interesting. As soon as they start finding more lands, we're getting in real trouble town. We need Seasoned Dungeoneers. Or... yeah, it's probably just Seasoned Dungeoneers here, so we can slide through the zombie tokens and tunnel our way through the initiative. We need to kind of get on the other side of the dungeon, really. Are they going to make 2 zombies? They are going to make 3 zombies with a second Mazavith. Okay, not sure we beat this. We get an additional card. Is it going to be useful? It's a Seasoned Dungeoneer. That's one of the things we need. An Archon of Emeria is not the worst either. But we do need to be able to ping down this Dark Depths is the issue. So I think we're playing out our City of Traitors this turn. Going 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll tap this one. And we'll play this Seasoned Dungeoneer. So we do get to attack and have a look at the top card of our library here. We get to go into Throne of the Dead 3. What do we find? What do we find that we like here? Another Seasoned Dungeoneer. Okay. So this goes and gets us deeper into the dungeon. And we get to attack with this, and then we get a trigger. We only get 1 trigger, unfortunately, because it gets protection creatures, so the second one doesn't work. Sure. We can bounce this, but we're doing this so we get to see... okay, we just drew a land. Sure. And then this one won't do anything. It's got protection creatures. So, we probably can't play our Archon of Emeria because our opponent can make a 20/20, and we might have to Solitude that. So we just have to pass. They know we have a Solitude, or at least they suspect we have a Solitude. But this is obviously going to get worse and worse for them. So this makes them another guy. They're going to make the 20/20 now. Looks like they are. So this 20 life is going to be very difficult for us to overcome, because they're just going to keep accruing value with their guys. And at some point they'll find a life from the gnome and we'll lose the game. Really need our opponent not to have Winding Way on top of their deck. Our opponent does not know that Merit Lage doesn't need to be paid for under Tabernacle because it's indestructible and this is a destroy trigger. So that's fine for us. We're going to do this in their upkeep when they don't have the ability to maybe have a crop rotation or something. Because at a crop rotation they might be able to save their creature. The fact they let all their zombies die does not feel correct to me. Okay, they just have a mulch coming off the top. Sure. Our opponent has been drawing pretty well. Was this 2 Besagus? Besaju and a thing. Okay, that's fine. Can live with that. Mana Bond, sure. So they're putting them both in. This gives them 2 zombies. 2 zombies is not the number they need, though. They needed 3 zombies here. So they've really done us a favour by paying for the wrong stuff here. Okay. Add 2. We will pay to prevent this. We will pay to prevent this. We will pay to prevent this. And then we will go into the Forge. And we will put it on this guy. We go to our turn. Thalia. So we'll lose We can lose our City of Traitors if we play another land out. I think we are just in swing with all the guys. So this one will protect the 5/5. This one will protect the 6/7. Put this into my graveyard. Put the... do I want some angels? Maybe I want angels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sure. I'll have some angels. Sure, you can Mazavith my massive guy. You can Mazavith my other massive guy, but what are you going to do about the other one? You going to put anything under the bus? No, you're just going to take damage. Alrighty. We're not playing out a land here. Do we need to play out a Thalia is the question. It's just another guy. We have so much mana here. I think we just... hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we play 9 to play the thing next turn. So yes, we do play out the star. No. We're not playing out the angels, are we? Because we need... we can't play out the angels because we need to pay for our guys. Yeah, that's... oh, I shouldn't have left that on top. Sorry. Last game of the night, and I'm a little bit ropey, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. So we could still Eiganjo our opponent as well, if we need to do that. I haven't really hit any wastelandy type stuff. I have to imagine they have wastelands in their deck. It would be weird if they didn't. The Emeria gives us pain-free Ancient Tomb activations, which is nice. Okay, they paid for their zombies this time. I just need to amass enough of them to block our things with. So they've drawn 1 card, so they can make 1 more zombie. So, should be alright here, hopefully. So, going to the Undercity again. As is tradition. Need to pay 4 mana. Got a stupid angel card that we don't actually want. I shouldn't have left on top of my library, which is really annoying. Pay to prevent that. Pay to prevent that. Pay to prevent this. Pay to prevent this next guy. Undercity. Going to trap. We can cycle through this a few times, really, but... what are we drawing? We're drawing this bad card that shouldn't be on top of our library. Cool. So now we go to attacks. Attack with everything. So this one targets the 6/6. This one targets the 5/6. Cavern of Souls. Not what we wanted. This can go into our graveyard. Like the last one should have done. If they double block our Thalia, we can always... Eiganjo. Blocker. All of our creatures untap as well, so this is pretty free. 2 of them don't get to connect, but we do get to connect for 7 this turn. Maybe we're actually supposed to start playing our lands out now. We lose the city, but we increase our land over the next few turns anyway. Alright, so what was our opponent's 1 card in their hand that they didn't cast and didn't put into play as a land? Interesting. Maybe they're waiting for... if it's another Field of the Dead, maybe they'll keep that in hand until they get more. What are they drawn here? Is this Life from the Loam? It's probably about time they found Life from the Loam, unfortunately. Which certainly changes how this game functions. Life from the Loam. Sure. So they're going to dump the Marit Lage combo into play. Not great for us, as you can probably imagine. So, we can play this Emeria's Call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not going to work, is it? Yeah, I think we're just in trouble and dead here. Page prevent. Page prevent. Page prevent. And we'll page prevent over here. Alright, let's draw another card for the archives. It's a really bad one. And a Walking Ballista. What does Walking Ballista do for us here? Does it do anything? No. Alright, we need our opponent to make a mistake here. This is no good. Solitude, that can stay on top. Now, we don't really have a way of drawing another card. That's kind of the issue we have here. We need our opponent to make a mistake and not make their 20/20, which seems unlikely considering they can do it every single turn because of Life from the Loam. Can we just F6 here and hope our opponent makes a mistake? We could also whittle a little bit of our clock back by F6ing here. It's a little bit behind. Yeah, our opponent got pretty lucky with their top. I think if they didn't get the mulch on their first draw and they had to wait a couple of turns, I think we'd probably win this game. But alas, was not to be the case. It's only game 1 though. Cool. You make your 2020 and we'll concede the game there. I did not make the mistake. So, what do I want in this matchup? I don't like the Chalices here. Well, on the play, the Chalice is okay. You can definitely slow them down a decent chunk. Touch of the Spirit Realm. Yes, please. Where is the Touch of the Spirit Realm? There it is. So the Chalice is good. So, well, these Walking Ballistas are bad. Let's get rid of those first. So the Chalice is good if our opponent, if we're on the play. I'd also like these Lorans of the third path, please. The Elite Spellbinders don't feel great to me. I think we just have to try and kill their big thing. We could play something like the Ley Lines. I don't think Thalia is doing us any favours here. We play the Ley Lines. That gives us one more thing to keep in our deck. So we're probably just gonna bring in another bring back in a Spellbinder just because it's a creature. Or actually no, we should probably have a Ballista so that we can find a Ballista and like get around Maze of Ith. That's probably fine. I don't like the Chalice on the draw, but on the play I think it's worth having because if we can play a turn 1 Chalice, it shuts off Exploration and Mana Bond, and our opponent's deck is very slow to function in that situation. I think this will do. This hand is very slow to me. I think we're going to mulligan this. This hand is a trap. The Leyline isn't necessarily good enough on its own. So I think this is a trap, so I think we should mulligan. What does this hand do? This is like one of the best cards in the matchup. Is that on turn 2 good enough though? Problem is our opponent gets to do their thing. Oh dear. I think we can get a better 4, to be honest. This is very slow. Yeah, okay. This is the one we want, I think. So we keep this. We get 4 of these cards. So the Archon is one of the cards we wanted here. We also like the Ancient Tomb, the Chrome Mox, and that means the White Plume Adventurer. So we're losing the Ancient Tomb, we're losing the Cavern of Souls, we're losing the Touch of the Spirit Realm. We now have the choice of whether or not we play the White Plume Adventurer on turn 1 or we play the Archon of Emeria. This will get us the land so we can cast any spell we draw off the top of our library. This is tough. I think we have to cast the White Plume, which is real awkward. If they have a Mana Bond, we're in trouble. But I think this is fast enough to race. I think delaying them 1 turn isn't going to be good enough. I think we have to draw the card off of this so we can cast any spell we draw next turn, apart from the Solitude. So we've seen the sort of the downside of Stompy a little bit here, where you have a lot of hands that don't necessarily do stuff. You have to mulligan. Now the deck mulligans very well because this just draws you a card pretty much straight away, and it has so much value attached to it. Okay, so have the Exploration. Slightly better for us than the Mana Bond. Maze of Ith. Okay, that's terrible for us. We will Lost Well here. Touch of the Spirit Realm. Okay, so we'll put this on the bottom of our library. I think we want the touch just to get rid of the Exploration. But that feels... No, I think we have to put it on the bottom of our library. We need threats here. We need like a Seasoned Dungeoneer or something. Or we can just draw the Ancient Tomb. Alright. So it's our opponent's turn. Let's see how bad it is. If they have... They can't combo us this turn with what they have because they will need another mana. Because the Maze of Ith doesn't tap for anything. Desperate Stage, okay. If they have a Dark Depths in hand, and I don't think they should have played the Maze of Ith last turn. If they had it as well. Okay. So just getting the Life from the Loam running and a Mana Bond. Oakley dokley. Are they going to dump anything in there? Just a Thespian Stage. Okay. So what are we going to do here? Would we rather draw a card or make a skeleton later on? I think we will rather make a skeleton. Just so we have 2 threats. We're on a clock versus the... Oh, yikes. That's not really good, is it? We're on a clock versus the Life from the Loam until it finds either the 2020 or a Wasteland if they're playing them and can strip us out of the game a little bit, or if it finds Field of the Dead. That's what our opponent's trying to do here. A Wasteland. Okay. So we're going to lose a land a turn, but that's not a problem because that's the thing we have too many of right now. Like, it's not great, obviously. It is a clock that's going to eventually stop us from being able to cast spells. We have a treasure token, we have a Chrome Mox, we have a land in hand. So the Wasteland isn't the issue here. Now they can Thespian Stage themselves another Wasteland, and then next turn take more things out of us. which might be what they're doing now. Or they can just go and get another Maze of Ith. Okay, they're just getting a second Maze of Ith. So the other option we had was to go down the Forge line and try and trap them and then repeat our way through the initiative enough times. Okay, so we're just bricking on lands here, so what do we want here? Probably human. It doesn't really matter, does it, at this point? And there's no point attacking because they've got the Maze of Ith. There's no point making them click through it at this point. We'll just F6 a turn. So yeah, so we kept this hand that needed to draw something, and we haven't drawn anything. We've only drawn lands. So, okay, so Life from Malone is going to get back the Beseiju, a Tranquil Thicket and a Wasteland, so they can double Life from Malone in one turn if they want to by cycling the Tranquil Thicket. So they can sort of turbo rip through their deck. Sure, we don't care about these Wastelands. They're a little bit annoying, but they're fine. Okay, Field of the Dead. That is something we care about. So our opponent's probably going to get that Field of the Dead back now. And they're going to start making guys. And we're probably dead in a couple of turns. They get to turbo Life from Malone every turn and dump everything into play. Which means it's only a matter of time before they find the 2020. I imagine that will kill us before the zombies. But the zombies basically mean we're never going to damage our opponent enough. This is why I went down the Lust Well line. Because unless we have more creatures, we're never going to be able to swing this game. I don't think trying to just sit back on this one guy and go through the dungeon 4 times is realistic. Sure, you can blow our stuff up. I don't care. Throne of Dead 3. Come on. Is that all you got for me? Archon of Emeria is okay here. Loran of the Third Path doesn't feel great. They have Expiration and Mana Bond, so I think we're just getting the Archon here. What have we got for us, deck? Something tasty. It's going to be another land, isn't it? Touch of the Spirit Realm. That's kind of tasty. It's like tasty adjacent. So we're going to attack with both of our guys. We untap all of our guys on our turn anyway. They have to put 2 guys under the Skeleton or 2 guys under the White Plume, and we can always touch the Spirit Realm one away. Or we can blink our White Plume to get further into the dungeon. So we have options. They're not very good options, but I can't even say they're better than nothing because they're not really, to be honest. It lets us click some buttons and make it feel like we're playing a game when this game is most likely already over. Yeah, I'm just going to play it safe and double Maze of Ith our guys, I think. Sure. So our opponent's turn. We untap all of our guys that are already untapped because of their Maze of Ith. This feels not great for us. So they got a Ghost Quarter now, so they can strip out our planes as well. And they got a second Field of the Dead, so they're going to be making a whole bunch of zombies now. So how do we win this game? I honestly don't think it's possible for us to win this game now. We need to find a Seasoned Dungeoneer, I guess. Is the hit here. But that's still not good enough. No, I just think we're dead. I think we should pack it up and stop wasting our time. Like, they're going to get so many guys. So we finished 3-2, but the only rounds we lost were where we mulled to 4. And one of those mulls to 4, we were very close to winning, and it just sort of fell by the wayside a little bit. If we'd have had like another card or 2, I think we'd be alright. That last game, we only drew lands, so our hand was rubbish and unplayable after that. But we did mulligan to 4, and we did about the best we could. If we'd have played the Archon there instead of the White Plume, I don't think we are in a better spot at all. So, yeah, I think that sort of shows you the levels that it takes to beat initiative. Sometimes you have to get unlucky and mulligan to 4 twice, really. All right, let's have a little chat about the deck. So the only thing about this deck that I would probably think about changing main deck is the Elite Spellbinder Archon of Emeria numbers. I think I probably want them the other way round, but again, it's very, very marginal and it's pretty close there. I just really like Archon of Emeria. Now, Elite Spellbinder is easier to cast and works better with Cavern of Souls, so your mulligans are slightly better, and this deck does mulligan a fair chunk. So I think it's much of a muchness, as we say. But yeah, so this deck is, well, to be honest with you, this deck is too good, I think. It's probably getting a banning on March 20th. I imagine they'll either ban White Plume Adventurer or they will errata the initiative, so it's only a multiplayer mechanic. Those are probably the two things that I would expect, and I'd also imagine we get a Delver ban at the same time. Now, Wizards of the Coast are obviously famous for disappointing people by not banning stuff and just ignoring Legacy when they really need to do some stuff, but we'll see. So I think we showcased some of the things the deck can do quite well today. We also showcased some of the weaknesses of the deck because, you know, it is too strong for Legacy, but I don't think that means it's like completely unbeatable or anything like that, and, you know, free of problems. So, you know, the deck does mulligan a lot, and sometimes it's going to get you. Like, our Land's opponent in the last round did get pretty lucky with their March off the top. I think if we had one or more turns before they started doing like their draw fours, then I think we probably win. So that was actually pretty tight. Like the games, like the rounds we lost were tight rounds. So I don't think we can be too upset with how we did here. It's hardly a surprise that this deck in Sahar's hands won the tournament the other day. It's a good deck. She knows what she's doing. She's played it. She's putting the work of all the sequencing, working out the matchups and stuff. So I think this is a good deck, and that's not really a surprise. It's a deck that I don't really want to exist anymore because I think it's quite a miserable play pattern to play against. And I've only played it a couple of times. I don't have a giant amount of fun playing it, to be honest. But again, it's not really my sort of deck. I'm more into like assembling 2020s, as you well know. But yeah, this deck is good, and you might as well play it if you like this sort of thing. If you like playing Stompy, it's, you know, I think you're going to be getting more wins than losses definitely with this as a deck. It's just very strong. I like the fact that we've got the good sideboard hate for graveyards. Some people trying to play other bits of graveyard hate, things like surgical or whatever, or cages and things. I don't think they're right at all. I think you just want ley lines. I think they're also better than Fairy Macabre, which I've seen people playing. I think you just want to go with these. I don't really have anything else to say about this deck, really. I don't actually think the Empty Shrine Kanushi is necessary, is what I will say. I think I would rather have another Archon of Absolution because it's just a better card. But again, I'm no expert with this deck. I only played it a couple of times. I've obviously played against it all the time. But I think this is probably your flex slot to play with in the sideboard. Not sure what you would want with that. Maybe another Touch of the Spirit Realm, or another Loran potentially, or another Karakas is certainly an option. Sometimes it's nice to have land. I think actually what you want is some way of dealing with lands that can mess you up. Things, as we saw, like a couple of Maze of Ith can just completely stomp you into the ground, especially if you mulligan. So maybe something for that. I'm not really sure what you'd have. Like Sarbo's Web I don't think is good enough. It's just if you're not familiar with Sarbo's Web, I think it's 2 mana artifact, comes into play, draw a card, which is nice, and then lands with non-mana abilities don't untap. So the only thing it would stop on our end is the one Karakas in our deck. I'm pretty sure that's what it does. So that is a weird option, but I think it might actually be pretty good here. The other option is play Armageddon. I think that is a realistic spell to play with this deck. You just play out your guys, cast Armageddon, you still got your Mox Diamonds. You don't have to worry about stuff like that. So that's probably what I would change with this deck, maybe. Just put an Armageddon or 2 in the sideboard to try and get around that matchup that with all the sort of 8 Mochi landsy type stuff. And some matchups, just casting an Armageddon when you head on board is going to be good anyway. So boarding that in against some of the sort of slower decks that sort of set up a little bit and get you, I think that is probably where I want to be. Now, that's obviously not great with things like Thalia, but you're boarding in matchups where Thalia's not so hot, things like that lands matchup or whatever. So yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this league, and I hope you're enjoying the feature that I'm doing now. Trying to do once a week playing a meta deck that won a tournament from the previous weekend. Let me know what you think about that as a regular feature. Is that a good thing? The reason I put it out on Wednesday is because I'm recording this Sunday night. So I can't really put it out on Monday because I record Mondays the week before. So it's going to be the midweek meta deck still. So I hope you enjoyed the feature. Let me know what you think. And obviously like my videos, that helps, and comment. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because that's the best way you can help me out right now. Once I get monetized, then we're all good, really. We can spend a few more play points on some wilder stuff as we go. And, you know, I do put a lot of time into this, so it'd be nice to get a little bit of something back from it. All right. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.